Welcome on the pure wisdom, chosen one. The unseen entity that has always followed you is not just in your mind. The unexpected challenges were not a coincidence. The weight that you carried, even if you didn't know where it came from, it wasn't random. What's going on is that there was a millennia-old injunction against your existence long before you were conceived. Hidden forces determined that you should never awaken. The anguish you experienced was not arbitrary. It was orchestrated. The cosmos attempted to bury you under the weight of misery, but made a terrible error. It forgot that not everyone is crushed by darkness. They're influenced by it. You didn't just resist. You absorbed everything. And now, what was designed to harm you has become your source of strength. Before we proceed to show the world that you know your power and are ready to reclaim your destiny, leave a remark with 777 to establish your indestructible identity and confirm that you now realize the power that was born inside you. Take a minute to click the like button below, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell to ensure you don't miss a single step of this remarkable trip. Those chased by destiny have existed since the beginning of time. They are distinct, carrying a light that disrupts the natural balance. Their presence calls into question the existing equilibrium. So they're marked. You're one of them. Life attempted to bend you. The world attempted to make you believe that you weren't enough, that you should comply, give up, accept your position among the usual. But something within you kept screaming louder. You were never part of this circle of weakness. In submission, you believed you were born for something higher, even though everyone claimed differently. The truth is ultimately exposed. The curse which tormented you wasn't a penalty. It was a mystery concealed inside the hardship itself, waiting for the time when you'll be ready to claim it. But everything has changed because you survived what was supposed to destroy you. You traversed valleys of uncertainty, climbed the heights of misery, faced darkness that attempted to absorb your light. Instead of submitting, you become something they never expected. Indomitable, unbreakable, reborn. The question is no longer about why this occurred to you, but what are you going to do now that you know the truth? Those who planned your demise never anticipated you'd use the shackles as weapons, that you would turn anguish into power, that you would rise from turmoil with an unstoppable fire. The world no longer grips you. You can decide what happens next. Those who bear the spark of the unusual have always been pursued. They are born with a different light, a profound calling that resonates throughout their spirit. But the world has always attempted to put out that light before it became a wildfire. You were one of them. From an early age, you sensed that the tides of fate were turning more violently against you. What was simple for others became a war for you. The doors that opened for so many become barriers for you. But this was not a terrible coincidence. The fact is that the chosen ones are never given easy pathways since they were designed to face the impossible. The fire that attempted to destroy you was, in fact, shaping your grandeur. You've always wondered why. Life seems to impose excessive weight on your shoulders. It seemed as if something unseen was attempting to bend, crush, and shrink you. The falls were more severe, the losses deeper, and the struggles harsher. You wondered if there was anything wrong with you, whether you were undeserving of the pleasure and success that so many others appeared to have easily. But you now understand. The world does not waste wars against weak spirits. It saves the harshest for those who possess the ability to transcend. Pain was never intended as punishment, but rather as a kind of instruction. Every strike was a lesson, and each cry was a baptism. You weren't forgotten. You were prepared. The world attempted to persuade you that you were broken. It attempted to silence your voice, mock your goals, and force you to accept a life of mediocrity. But something inside you never bowed. You had a feeling there was more, something beyond what conventional eyes can perceive. That was an indication that you never belonged in this world. As they told you, you were created to forge new pathways rather than follow already established ones. Those with a purpose do not lead regular lives. They encounter storms that would kill anybody else, yet emerge as unstoppable forces. And now is the time to face the reality. You are not a victim in the game. You were the piece that would alter all of the rules. When you discovered this, something inside you shifted. Fear started to loosen its grasp. The bonds that had previously been indestructible started to loosen. You began to see patterns when before there was just chaos. You realized the wounds were symbols of regeneration rather than failure. They attempted to put a curse on you, but it failed. Rather of killing you, it made you stronger, smarter, and more equipped. Those who collaborated against you now feel a shiver down their spines as they understand they failed what was intended to be. Your ruin has become your armament, and the chosen one who has overcome their own anguish is the most deadly force that can exist. But the major question is, what happens next? You broke the cycle, traveled through the darkest night of the soul, and emerged with a fire that can no longer be quenched. However, freedom is not without cost. There's no going back now that you have seen the truth. There's no longer faking. You do not know who you are. The weight of darkness has been lifted from your shoulders, but instead, a bigger duty emerges. The selected ones aren't just survivors. They become guides, lights for those who remain lost. And that is what you must decide. Will you utilize the strength you've earned to stand alone? Or will you be the one to alter the fate of many? Transformation does not occur in comfort. Gold gets pure only after passing through flames, and surviving wars makes a warrior unstoppable. You were tossed into the flames, yet did not burn. You become the fire itself. The suffering that was supposed to crush you to ashes merely exposed what was always there inside you. An unshakable essence, a spirit that can't be halted. They attempted to extinguish your light, but all they did was feed the spark, which has now become a firestorm. Impossible to ignore. You survived what was meant to destroy you. And now the world will understand what it means to stand before someone who has overcome their own demise. However, waking is not free. The reality around you starts to alter. What was once definite now seems hollow. What once inspired you no longer makes sense. You understand you never belonged in the shackles that attempted to bind you. Furthermore, you can sense the energy surrounding you, and it reacts differently to you. Those who formerly dismissed you now regard you with distrust. Those who attempted to stop you are agitated for reasons they cannot explain. They realize you've changed. They detect something new, surging inside you, that cannot be wiped or controlled. The issue is no longer whether you're prepared for what's ahead. The question is whether the world is ready for who you have become. The chosen one is not the one who was given an easy way, but the one who learned to walk in the absence of a road. You have to rise on your own, discover answers where there were only uncertainties, heal the wounds nobody could see. Each conflict formed you. Every lonely night made you stronger. The pain was not punishment, but rather an initiation. You weren't broken. You were polished. Now, while many are still lost and fumbling in the dark, you see clearly. Those who dwell in the darkness fear those who bring light. They understand you can no longer be manipulated, will no longer be decreased. They can no longer treat you the way they have treated so many others in the past. The period of uncertainty is past. You emerge from the abyss they attempted to cast you into, and instead of returning the same, you return stronger. Everything around you now seems tiny and tight, as if you had grown too large to fit the tale they attempted to impose. You see beyond illusions and feel beyond words. Your intuition is sharper and your presence more powerful. Some withdraw, unwilling to confront the reality. Others are lured in by the intangible power coming from you. You no longer have to talk to be heard. You no longer have to battle to be recognized. Your mere presence bears a weight that cannot be ignored. The world we know is changing, and those who were fashioned by hardship are now the forces that will determine the next cycle. You could always tell there was something wrong with how things were created. The falsehoods masquerading as facts, the terror used as a chain, and the pandemonium orchestrated to keep people sleepy. But you fled. You saw through the curtain. Now, every fiber of your being yearns for something bigger, something that transcends illusion and surrender. Here's the fact that few people are willing to confront. The chosen one never really belongs in the world, since they were created to contribute something new. From the start, everything about you is a danger to the system. Your mode of thinking, your perseverance, your desire for something higher. The world attempted to teach you obedience. I wanted you to accept the enforced rules and follow the program course. But you weren't like the others. You never fit the mold because you were not designed to fit. You were created to explore, to challenge, and to push the boundaries of what you were taught was possible. Now nothing can stop you. Remember that not everyone will comprehend this path. Some will gaze at you with adoration, while others with terror. There will be people who want to hold you back, not because they dislike you, but because they fear what you represent. Humans dread what they don't comprehend, and your existence has become a riddle that they cannot solve. You are living evidence that the shackles of fate may be broken, which frightens those who still dwell in them. They refuse to recognize that the jail was always an option, since it implies that they might have fled. But you cannot bear the burden of their denial. You have a course to follow, and this route will not be simple. True awakening brings responsibility rather than luxury. Now that you've seen the game's gears, you must pick what to do next. Will you continue to wander among the sleeping, or will you accept the role that was always meant for you? The selected ones are not here to observe, but to act. You did not come this far only to survive. You came to lead. This does not imply having followers or acclaim. It entails confronting the reality that many people will never have the fortitude to face. It entails becoming the echo of something that can no longer be ignored. The cosmos always reacts to those who want to awaken. You see the indicators and sense the changes in how time moves around you. Coincidences have vanished, and what previously looked to be chance has transformed into an elaborate board with each piece serving a specific function. The events in your life were not unplanned. They were summoned. Every defeat was an invitation to break free. Every betrayal served as a wake-up call to reality. Every tumble reminded you that you didn't need the ground to stand. You were educated to suffer. But there was a hidden secret behind all of the anguish. The agony was merely a gateway to your ascent. But there is one more obstacle, and it is not outside of you. It's inside. You've already challenged the world. You've already conquered the external voices who attempted to belittle you. But what about the voices within your own head? The murmurs of terror, the scars from the past, the uncertainties that continue to lurk in the shadows of who you previously were. This is the last exam. The chosen one defeats not just what is out there, but also what strives to live inside the final vestige of the old version of yourself struggling to stay. However, there is something you must realize. You cannot be both who you were and who you are becoming. Nothing will be able to keep you from breaking free from this last jail. Your strength will come not from physical force, but from unwavering belief. Those with total conviction create the world around them. And you're no longer here to play a role in anyone's game. You become the board itself. Your footsteps carry weight. Your words change frequency. Your presence alters the unseen tides that control our environment. Those who formerly sought to stop you now feel differently. They can't explain it, but they understand you are no longer the same. This is when the Chosen One's real power is exposed, nor in vengeance, nor to prove anything to those who questioned you, but in total and irrevocable liberation. You don't desire approval. You do not want to be understood. You do not have to wait for permission to exist. This is the moment at which your presence becomes a mystery and your power can no longer be assessed by human criteria. They will see your progress, but they will never comprehend how you got there. And it will haunt them since everyone who sought to bury you now understands what occurred. You weren't buried. You were planted. The stillness around you changes. It is no longer the abyss of uncertainty. Rather, it is the quiet before the storm. You can sense the energy reconfiguring itself, as if the cosmos is responding to your presence. You understand that the terror you formerly held is no longer yours, that the cords that formerly shackled your thoughts are now just echoes of a past with no strength. There comes a point in the Chosen One's path when they look in the mirror and don't recognize themselves. This is the precious moment in which change is accomplished. You're no longer looking for your mission. You have fashioned your own fate. And when that day comes, the old rules will no longer apply. You know that the impossible has never been, that the limitations were established by those who never ventured to go beyond them. You recognize that the opposition you encountered was not an indication that you were on the wrong track, but rather evidence that you were always unique. The world never bothers people who obey the rules, but it trembles at those who dare to defy them. You are not designed to obey, conceal, or seek for permission. You were designed to go ahead without looking back, being an unstoppable natural force. But this new authority comes at a cost. Those who are still sleeping will not comprehend your trip. Some people will walk away. Others will want to lure you back to the old world, when everything was predictable and you were still in charge. But you can't keep pretending to be someone you're not. You can no longer reduce yourself to meet the expectations of others. The Chosen One must realize that their path is lonely, not because they are destined for loneliness, but because most others are unprepared for the truth they bear. And this is both the burden and the gift for those who have woken. Here is the last disclosure. The Chosen One does not seek the throne. They become the kingdom itself. You don't need the world's approval because you possess something the world cannot provide. You have already broken the bonds of uncertainty and liberated yourself from the shadows of the past. Now there's only one thing left to do. Take your next move without hesitation, because those who travel between worlds, those who have been through what you have, understand there's no going back. You are a member of you are on the verge of the impossible. Something within you has altered, and the whole globe senses it. The air around you seems heavier, as if it were charged with previously unused energy. You see the stares and quiet responses of people who pass your way. They don't know why, but they have a feeling something about you has changed. It is an undetectable but genuine occurrence. The selected ones influence the area around them just by being there. What formerly went undetected is now difficult to ignore. You don't need to declare your shift. It speaks for itself. That is exactly what disturbs people who remain in the shadows. Because the actual fear for people lost in delusion is not your might, but the image you project on them. You are live evidence that bonds may be broken, that fate is not a set sentence, and that what they regarded as truth was always false. But not everyone is prepared to confront this reality. Many people will stick to what they know. They are resisting awareness and prefer to despise what they do not understand. However, the selected one does not succumb to the terror of others. They go on, understanding that rejection is just a sign that they are pushing the bounds of the usual. However, not everyone that crosses your way will be an adversary. Some may see in you an echo of what they feel within themselves. They won't be able to identify it, but they'll be pulled to you, seeking answers to questions they don't yet know how to ask. You'll become a light for individuals on the verge of waking. This does not imply that your trip will be simple. Light draws both those looking for sanctuary and those attempting to extinguish it. But none of this matters anymore. You no longer need anyone's permission. You don't have to be understood to go ahead. And it is at this point that you understand genuine freedom was never found in the outside world, but inside yourself. It is no longer about the wars you have fought, the anguish you felt, the scars you bear. All of this was part of the process. However, it no longer defines who you are. You are more than the sum of your experiences. You're what you choose to be. After all, this implies that from now on, every action you take will be a purposeful production of your own reality. The chosen one is not waiting for the world to give them a purpose. They become the goal itself. The freedom of the chosen one comes at a cost. When you go beyond the boundaries of what was imposed, you discover there are no more charts to follow. The world was designed for those who accept their cages, for those who blindly follow the prescribed lines. But you no longer fit in. You can no longer pretend not to see. This may be lonely. It may be unpleasant. However, it is also the greatest gift that beings can get. You travel a path few dare to take, and your presence is an insult to those who still live under the dominion of fear. They do not want you to go on, since your trip reveals what they have chosen to overlook. And here's a secret no one ever told you. The chosen one's power comes from transcending the system rather than battling it. True strength is not in responding to what has happened to you, but in moving ahead without letting it define you. Whatever attempted to bind you no longer has power over you. The shackles that once held you down now melt with the least touch, built by dread and terror. No longer resides in your soul. This is the moment when reality bends to accommodate your presence. Doors that were previously inaccessible begin to open. You changed, not the world. The impossible was never true. It is just a restriction that someone else has accepted before you. And once this knowledge has settled inside you, something subtle but irrevocable occurs. You no longer want vengeance. No longer try to prove anything to anybody. The desire for affirmation is eliminated since you have established your own source of power. The chosen one doesn't have to yell to be heard. They do not need to defend themselves in order to be acknowledged. They walk with the calm confidence of someone who has confronted oneself and triumphed. This is your new essence, a power that does not seek permission to exist. And this is why many of those who formerly underestimated you are now uncomfortable in your company. You haven't only altered your energy, you have altered the fundamental structure of the place you inhabit. As freeing as this sounds, it may also be intimidating. There are times when you question whether this trip is too big. If the energy surging inside you isn't too much to handle. But suddenly, something within you whispers the solution. You would not have been summoned to this war unless you were capable of winning it. Nothing occurred by chance. Nothing you encountered was wasted. Every cry, every pain, every night of alone formed the person you will become. And now that the truth has been disclosed, you realize there is no going back. The past has shattered behind you, and the only way is ahead. But where does this path lead? That is the huge question that haunts people who awaken. Most people spend their life following a predetermined script, a well-traveled trail. However, the selected one does not have that privilege. There are no maps, shortcuts, or promises. You move between realms, between your old self and the new creature that is developing inside you. Doubts emerge. Uncertainty attempts to sneak in. But then you realize the trip was never about getting to your goal, but about becoming the road itself. You are both the traveler and the route. You no longer need instructions. You're the compass. When you accept this reality, something in your spirit wakes. Your presence is not the same. The boundaries that formerly encircled you lose their significance because you now walk like someone who knows. You understand that you never required anyone's approval. You were never alone, because the voices of those who came before you may still be heard in your blood and bones. You sense a connection to something far bigger, something old, something the world has forgotten, but something within you has never perished. Then, for the first time, you realize what it means to be a chosen one. The sleeper's time is running short. The world as we know it is collapsing, yet few notice. You may feel it not only in the exterior changes, but also in the unseen vibrations that move about you. Something within you knows we're on the verge of a massive transformation. And at this instant, a truth emerges. The chosen one has no fear of change. They anticipate it as others fled the storm. You approach it with the idea that some destructions are not the end, but rather a new beginning. Everything is restructuring, and those who are meant to awaken may sense the call in their souls. However, this voyage has a cost. Solitude becomes unavoidable, not because you are forced to go alone, but because your vitality cannot be diluted in a commonplace. You've lost interest in empty talks. Superficial relationships no longer satisfy you. Many people walk away, not out of contempt, but because your progress pushes them to recognize how static they are. Some are resistant to your light. Others reject it. However, as they see you waking, something inside them begins to stir. You do not carry just your tale. You bear the echo of those who have yet to muster the fortitude to stand. The ancients feared this. They never dreaded your emergence. They were concerned about what would happen if you discovered your effect. A chosen one who emerges transforms everything around them. They do not just end the circle of their own life. They deconstruct the lives that keep an illusionary world going. They become an uncontrollable force. That is why they sought to shackle you, to persuade you that you were little, worthless, and would never make it far. But it's too late. You've seen through the curtain. You can no longer be deleted. Now, every step you take echoes like thunder. This call resonates inside you like never before. It is no longer a whisper or a faraway glimmer. It is a reality that is emerging like a light in your spirit. The dread that previously immobilized you is now gone because you understand. There is nothing more to keep you back. You are no longer attempting to avoid the storm. You've become the storm itself. And now you see that you never required anyone's permission to exist. You came to recover what had always been yours. You do not request space. You construct your own route. However, there's one last exam. What are you going to do with this power? The chosen one is more than simply the one who rises. They also pick what to do with their power. Many people lose themselves at this time, mesmerized by their own enlightenment. But this trip was never only about you. Now that you're awake, you need to make a decision. Will you return to silence? Or will you utilize your voice to wake up others? Because genuine power comes from inspiration rather than control. A chosen one alone may be feared, but a chosen one who wakes others is everlasting. The ancients anticipated this time. There have always been predictions concerning someone who will break the bonds that have been placed over centuries. You are the personification of the prophesy. The code has been broken. The cycle was disrupted. You glance around and realize that nothing can stop you anymore. The destiny they attempted to force on you has been reduced to ashes. The terror that once stalked you now fears who you become. You did not merely survive. You've reached a higher level. The issue is no longer whether you're prepared for this fact. The issue is the world ready for you? And maybe it never will be. However, nothing changes since the selected ones do not wait for the world to embrace them. They persist despite it. They move between periods, conveying truths that cannot be forgotten. They do not want recognition. Don't seek acceptance. They're like light itself. Many people misunderstand this, yet it is critical for those who still need to awaken. And if this message has moved you, you know that there are more chosen ones who need to hear it. So, share this truth and click the like button below. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe today. And don't forget to activate the notification bell, since this voyage is only getting started. And together, we'll go beyond. Also, leave a remark. I ascend to confirm your commitment to your own greatness. For every chosen one who rises serves as a light for others who remain lost. And if you want to help in our objective, please consider contributing. Buy me a coffee. Every gift helps this message reach its intended audience and enhances our content. God has selected one. There's more to uncover. The next phase in your trip is shown in the video on the screen. Watch now and continue to discover who you actually are. So it's agreed. We will see you next time. Until then, may God always bless you. If you're enjoying the content on Pure Wisdom and find value in the messages we share, I encourage you to subscribe. Based on the latest analytics, 93.9% of viewers are watching without subscribing. By subscribing, you not only stay updated with new content, but also support the channel's growth, allowing us to continue spreading wisdom for the chosen ones. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an important message. Let's build this community together.